My name is John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be Saturday Morning, Video 18, The Planning Notebook. This is my novel, John Passfield, Saturday Morning. In this video, I'm going to read from the Planning Notebook, which I wrote while planning and writing that novel. The title of the notebook is Planning John Passfield, Saturday Morning, and it can be found and accessed for free on my website, johnpassfield.ca. It begins with the notes for a short story, which I did not complete in 1997, yet it ends 23 years later, with my conclusion in November 2020 that the novel was now in rough draft form, which meant that every word of the novel was in place. It was time to start the polishing process. So the novel is 51,000 words, and the notebook is 47,000 words. In this reading, I'm going to read 5 passages as a sample of what the Saturday Morning Notebook contains. So here's the first passage from the notebook. A few days ago, I found my original note on the abandoned short story, which was to have been The Perfect Load of Garbage. The date on that note pinpoints the origin of what will become the novel, John Passfield, Saturday Morning. Since I did not find the original note until today, Wednesday, February 5th, 2020, I will leave the notes in this notebook, which were written between Friday, October 27th, 2014, when I first thought of the situation as a potential novel, to now, Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. So that's 6 years of notes as they are. Here I will simply record the date of the original idea and mention that it baffled me in 1997 as a potential topic for a short story. So I had the idea of The Perfect Load of Garbage for a short story in 1997, couldn't write it, couldn't figure out how to shape it, and 23 years later I completed a novel on the same topic. Okay, passage number 2 from the notebook. From time to time I think of writing a novel, which has the outer frame of my uncompleted short story, The Perfect Load of Garbage. It came at the end of my short story writing. The short story that became October was a real challenge to write. So here's some points, and I'll number them. I had written about 20 or 21 stories. Whoops, page problem here. So number 1, I'd written 21 stories. Number 2, I was writing them in a less and less orthodox mode. Number 3, I couldn't find a through line of action to hold it together. 4, I struggled to find an orthodox framework to write a normal short story. 5, I finally decided to give myself permission to write a failure, a collection of images that seemed logical thematically, but it didn't seem to have a storyline. The result is a short story, October, which led later to my first novel, Grave Song. Here it is here. I'll just hold up. That's my first novel. And I went on, well, I didn't write it until later. Okay, number 7. And then came The Perfect Load of Garbage, whose disparateness of imagery defeated me. So just a whole bunch of images on an idea, and I couldn't make it a short story. I abandoned the attempt in 1997 to write the short story, The Perfect Load of Garbage, and began to write my novel. So then I wrote Grave Song and went on from there. Okay, here's the passage number 3 from the notebook. A title which just occurs to me might be Saturday Morning, The Perfect Load of Garbage. Well, as you can see, I put my own name in there instead, John Passfield, Saturday Morning. Okay, it would be, and here's another list. So I find it's really handy to make lists about the whole novel, and or to make lists about a chapter. Okay, what are the ingredients that I want in this novel or in this chapter? So here's a list that I made about the whole novel at a certain point. I'll number them even though they're just dashes. Number 1, set in the 1960s. 2, myself as a high school or university student. 3, working as a garbage man in the summer. 4, the ambience of the 1960s, which I would research in newspapers of the day. 5, at a certain stage of life, a turning point for me. 6, a half day of work. 7, collecting garbage. 8, extremely heavy, meaning there's lots of garbage to collect and not much time to collect it, so under time pressure. 9, past quitting time, not getting paid after quitting time, still working. 10, must get garbage off streets, so you couldn't just go home and leave the garbage on the streets. 11, no overtime pay. 12, trying not to take time to dump the load, right? So you have a full truck, just keep putting more on it. Don't take time to go and empty the truck. 13, piling garbage higher and higher on an open truck. 14, an art form composed of, and here's another list under that heading, art form. A, shape of an open truck. B, tried and true method of piling, use of whatever comes to hand. C, must be the highest and best load ever built. He, I, will be thinking, the main character. D, no other garbage man even mentions it. So when 3 or 4 trucks converge at the end, I will admire the perfect load of garbage, but no other garbage man will even look at it. It's nothing to them. E, switch to work on a less full truck near the end. F, wistfully watches the perfect load of garbage go off to the dump to be spread and squashed by the bulldozer. End of novel. So I thought of that as mythical. You know, I built the perfect load of garbage under pressure. I had to. I did. I looked up at it after I got down on the sidewalk, thought how perfect it was. I've done something perfect in my life. The other garbage men didn't even notice. Nothing to them. What happens to the perfect thing you've done? It goes down to the dump on the back of the truck. It's dumped out and the bulldozer squashes it down. So somehow that's mythical, eh? How many times do you do something perfect in your life? Who notices? And how long does it last? Okay, here's the 4th passage that I selected from the notebook. If I make it 1967, so see, I worked in the garbage 5 summers. I didn't know which summer my memory was based on, which summer with the half day and perfect load was. So I thought, well, how about 1967, which was one of those summers? It would be number 1, I'd be 22 years old in August, so 21, 22 that summer. 2, just graduated from university, another turning point. 3, about to be married, turning point. 4, about to leave town, turning point. 5, Canada's centennial, turning point for a whole country, a whole society. 1867, 1967. 6, the Vietnam War, so social background in a large way, history. And 7, 1960s cultural changes. That was the summer of love in San Francisco and so on, 1967. So further on, I write, I see no difficulty in A, writing from an image quarry of direct experience, all from my own life experience and milieu. B, distilling the mythical essence of the personal and cultural situation. So that's the 4th passage. Here's the 5th passage. Driving down here, I think we were on the way to Windsor that day, I talked about my proposed 1960s novel to my wife as a parallel to my Pompeii novel, Pompeii, Vesuvius Dominus. So I'd already written this novel. 2,000 years apart, same social patterns and humans concerned. So if Pompeii, a small town in AD 79, is worth writing about, how about St. Thomas, a small town in 1967, with the same sort of idea? Life on a small pattern in a small town, but some sort of ominous larger world out there. So that was the idea. That got me thinking about the possibility of a coral outer frame, as in Pompeii Vesuvius Dominus. It wouldn't be as dramatic as the Pompeii novel. There's no volcano threatening to destroy the town, but will give the surround of the lives of the people of in 1967, St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada. So you did have the Vietnam War as a hot war. You had the Cold War with Russia at that time, and the Cold War with China as well, as the larger surround, sort of paralleling the volcano maybe. Okay, so A, perhaps A, imagery from the social life of the town on that day. B, imagery from the geopolitical and social world of the planet Earth on that day. And then C, separating them would be the fragments of imagery from both worlds. So those are the 5 then passages that I selected from this notebook, this way of working my way towards a novel. Here's a note that I wrote for this video. A novel often begins with an image. It could be an image from history, from a book, from current news, or as in this case, from one's own personal experience. I collected garbage in the summers in my teens and early 20s in the early 1960s from age 15 to age 22. During one of those summers, on a Saturday morning, I built what I considered to be a perfect load of garbage. This image stuck with me, and over 30 years later, in 1997, when I was 53 years old, I'm 76 as I read this, that image of the perfect load of garbage occurred to me, with other images clustered around it as a possible topic for a short story. Myself as a young person, the Cold War of that era, the human need to build a future for oneself, and so on. Due to the pressures of time, I wrote a short story on another topic and let the image of the perfect load of garbage sink down into the depths of my mind. Years later, 23 years after considering the topic of the perfect load of garbage as a short story, and 57 years after I'd actually built the perfect load of garbage, my imagination drew on another cluster of images, and that was the cluster of images that had occurred to me when I visited Pompeii, and which had yielded a novel on that topic. Why not capture St. Thomas, my hometown, as I had captured Pompeii, and base it on the experience of building the perfect load of garbage? So, the notebook shows the origins of ideas for topics for novels, but also shows the development of those ideas, the forming and reforming of image clusters, which affect our thoughts and behaviors during our lives, but which also, when worked on consciously, become image patterns. And it is the image patterns in each case which become the novel on the topic of interest. So this novel, John Passfield, Saturday Morning, has the longest gestation that I can trace in my notebooks of any of my novels, but probably shows better than the other notebooks how deeply an image, perfect load of garbage, can operate in the mind, and how long it can be operative as an insight into the workings of the world. Do something perfect, nobody notices. How long does it last? And how it can interact with other imagery to produce, if one is a writer, a concrete image pattern in ink and paper in the art form which we know as the novel. So, once again, you can access this notebook for free on my website, John Passfield, all one word, CA. Just go to Notebooks and check on the Saturday Morning icon. And lastly, I'll say thank you for watching this video.